Welcome, my friends, to Zodiac Talks Tarot, the little corner of the universe where cosmic insight meets grounded wisdom, where ancient archetypes shake hands with modern psychology, and where we take astrology seriously, just not so seriously that we forget to laugh at ourselves along the way. I'm glad you're here, whether you arrived by divine alignment, a hyperactive recommendation algorithm, or because you clicked the wrong video and decided, well, since I'm here, I might as well get spiritually upgraded. Today, we're diving into the fiery, freedom-loving world of Sagittarius, and we're exploring why December 6, 2025 marks a moment when the path forward finally begins to clear once the archer gathers enough patience to actually slow down and notice it. If you're a Sagittarius, or if you've ever loved, tolerated, worked with, or chased after one, you already know that this sign rarely sits still long enough to notice the subtler signals of life. I've spent decades studying astrology, sociology, and the endlessly unpredictable behavior of human beings, and if there's one universal truth, it's that Sagittarius is always in motion. There's a restlessness baked into your essence, a hunger for meaning and experience that drives you toward new horizons before the dust even settles behind you. You are the philosopher, the explorer, the eternal student of life, but also the person who might miss the miracle happening right over your shoulder because you were already halfway out the door chasing another one. Yet today's message invites you into a rare pause, not as a punishment, not as a cosmic sit down, we need to talk, but as an act of preparation. The universe is shifting the landscape under your feet, and for once, the path is clearing not because you've fought your way through it, but because you've finally learned enough to understand where you're meant to step next. Some call this karma, some call it divine timing, and some call it simply the math of maturity, but whatever language you prefer, the energy around Sagittarius right now is unmistakably one of transition. A threshold is forming, subtle but powerful, and it's inviting you to walk through it with intention rather than impulse. Astrologically, we can thank Jupiter, your generous and sometimes overly enthusiastic ruling planet. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, whether that's wisdom, opportunity, or your tendency to take on 3 new projects while still procrastinating on the first. Recently, Jupiter has been stirring your internal landscape not gently, but with that classic dramatic flair that makes Sagittarius say, okay, this is fine, everything's fine, while the emotional furniture is being rearranged. You're being pushed to rethink not only what you want, but why you want it. And in a world where society is collectively re-examining identity, purpose, freedom, and connection, Sagittarius feels that tension in a particularly poignant way. You're absorbing the cultural turbulence the way a sponge absorbs water, except this water happens to be a confusing mix of existential dread, overdue self-reflection, and your own desire to buy a plane ticket and escape everyone for a week. But the good news, the truly encouraging truth beneath all of this, is that Sagittarius never stays down for long. Historically, mythologically, psychologically, your archetype rises. Even when you think you've run out of steam, something within you rekindles the hope, the resilience, the audacity to try again. What looks like exhaustion on the surface is often the early stage of your rebirth, a molting of old ideas and outdated emotional layers. Right now, what you're experiencing is not collapse, it is clearing. It's the moment before the breakthrough, the quiet before the next great leap. Buddhist philosophy teaches that emptiness is not a void but a space of potential. Sagittarius is standing in that space right now. Yes, you may feel tired. Yes, you may feel like you're questioning everything from your relationships to your career to the existential purpose of your houseplant. But under that fatigue lies clarity forming, like dawn preparing to break. The path is clearing, and not because life suddenly became easier, but because your perception is sharpening. This is the moment when scattered energy begins to gather into focus, when the noise quiets just enough for you to hear the truth your intuition has been whispering for months. We don't always notice transformation while it's happening. Sometimes it looks like boredom. Sometimes it feels like frustration. Sometimes it feels like the emotional equivalent of rebooting a computer that keeps saying installing updates, 87%. And yet, beneath all that, something genuine is unfolding. So today on Zodiac Talks Tarot, we explore what this transition means for Sagittarius, why the timing matters, and how your fire once tempered by reflection rather than distraction can illuminate a path far more powerful than the one you were chasing before. And yes, we'll add a little humor along the way, because any seasoned researcher of human nature knows that if you can't laugh at your own spiritual evolution, you're taking the journey too seriously. Let's begin. Many Sagittarians have been moving through an emotional landscape that feels less like a storm and more like a long, quiet winter, the kind where everything looks normal on the outside but carries a subtle chill underneath. It has not been a season defined by dramatic heartbreak or cinematic collapse. Instead, it has felt like waking up one morning and realizing that your inner compass is pointing somewhere new, yet the map hasn't caught up. You may have found yourself asking whether you're truly on the right path, why life seems to be operating at a slower speed than your naturally impatient fire prefers, or how it's possible to feel deeply connected to the world while also sensing a faint but undeniable emotional distance. For a sign as intuitive and forward-moving as Sagittarius, this liminal space can feel almost foreign, like standing in the doorway of your own life unsure whether to step in or out. But here is the truth that decades of studying astrology and human psychology have taught me: this internal stillness is not a punishment. It is preparation. When the mind approaches genuine transformation, it often enters a transitional state where old perceptions fade and new ones haven't fully formed yet. In psychology, this is called a liminal phase, and Sagittarius struggles with it more than most because it feels like stagnation. And stagnation sits right next to long lines, slow Wi-Fi, and unsolicited advice on the list of things this sign dislikes. Yet from a spiritual perspective, especially through the lens of Buddhist teachings, this emptiness is not actually empty. It is fertile ground. It is the quiet soil in which new insight, new identity, and new direction begin to germinate. Your intuition has been resetting itself, like a compass realigning after years of pointing toward obligations rather than desires. Your heart has been gently releasing outdated emotional patterns, some inherited, some learned, some simply outgrown. And your spirit, that restless flame that usually rushes ahead, has been guiding you inward, asking for reflection before motion, awareness before action. This kind of inner recalibration can feel strange, even unsettling, but it is the necessary prelude to expansion. And make no mistake, that expansion is coming. Sagittarius is wired for growth, and once your inner world finishes reorganizing itself, your outer world will follow suit with surprising speed. You may feel like you're moving slowly now, but in truth, you are gathering momentum. One of the most fascinating phenomena I've observed about Sagittarius over the years is how magnetic you become when you step into your independence with clarity rather than rebellion. Most astrology books dance around this idea, but here's the unfiltered truth: Sagittarius becomes irresistible when choosing themselves. There is something undeniably radiant about a Sagittarius who has stopped explaining, stopped apologizing, and stopped bending themselves into shapes that do not match their essence. When you pull your energy back not out of bitterness, but out of a deep need for self-preservation, you create an unmistakable gravitational field around you. People sense your shift. They feel the boundaries you've reclaimed. They notice the confidence that comes from honoring your own interior world rather than chasing external validation. And suddenly, you are not the one pursuing, you are the one being pursued. Do not be surprised if new eyes start turning in your direction, if unexpected admiration begins to surface, or if certain people who once overlooked your glow suddenly remember how remarkable you are. Sagittarius energy has a way of becoming even more luminous when it steps out of the crowd and stands in its own truth. You may even find old connections resurfacing, peeking into your life with the kind of tentative curiosity usually reserved for someone checking the fridge at 2 a.m. to see if anything magically appeared since the last time they looked. Take these moments lightly. Be amused, be flattered, but do not be pressured. Because your next chapter in love and connection is no longer about chasing sparks, it is about choosing fires that actually warm you. It is about recognizing that your heart deserves alignment, not adrenaline. And the most important shift is this: you are no longer choosing out of impulse or idealism, but out of wisdom. The emotional winter is ending. Your inner spring is preparing to bloom. And this time, you are stepping into it with a sense of self that no one, not even your most charming past love with impeccable timing, can pull you away from. When we turn our attention to career and ambition for Sagittarius, it becomes clear that the winds are shifting in your favor, though not with the dramatic immediacy you might secretly hope for. Instead, the movement is steady, deliberate, and aligned with a deeper sense of purpose. In the collective energy of Sagittarius, I see contracts nearing completion, opportunities you thought had vanished quietly circling back, and negotiations that once felt frozen finally beginning to thaw. Long-term decisions, those you've been postponing, questioning, or outright running from, are stepping into sharper focus. If you've been buried under paperwork, tangled in legal threads, navigating financial instability, or simply waiting on that one infuriating message that promised, "I'll update you soon," rest assured, the cosmic gears are turning again. And for once, they're not grinding at the speed of a sloth on vacation. In my years studying organizational psychology, leadership development, and the strangely comedic choreography of workplace dynamics, one truth stands out. People see Sagittarians as visionaries long before they see them as leaders. You're the big picture thinker, the one with ideas that stretch beyond the horizon. But now, the universe is gently nudging you into a space where your visionary nature and your leadership potential merge into one coherent force. This next chapter demands structure, not the suffocating kind that makes you feel like you've been sentenced to a lifetime of spreadsheets, but the grounded kind that gives you enough stability to chase your wildest goals without everything collapsing behind you like an IKEA bookshelf assembled at midnight with missing screws. The shift in your professional life is not a coincidence and not simply luck. It's a direct result of the resilience you demonstrated during periods where most people would have surrendered to frustration or despair. Sagittarius has a way of pushing through storms with an optimism so bold it borders on mythological, and that stamina is now paying dividends. Doors are opening not because they magically appeared, but because you kept knocking even when your knuckles were tired. Alongside these external changes, there is a profound internal evolution unfolding. Spiritual transformation is often glamorized as a fiery rebirth, complete with special effects and triumphant music swelling in the background. But in reality, true transformation is quieter, subtler, and sometimes so ordinary looking that you don't realize it's happening until you've already crossed the threshold. It shows up as losing interest in things that once thrilled you, not because you've become dull, but because your spirit is recalibrating toward authenticity. It appears when you begin setting boundaries you once allowed people to trample, when you stop chasing attention as though it were oxygen, when simplicity feels more satisfying than chaos, when peace outweighs the need to impress, and when you finally feel comfortable letting certain chapters close without demanding a dramatic farewell scene. Sagittarius is shedding layers, old identities shaped by survival, expectations inherited from others, and outdated stories you once believed about who you needed to be. This peeling away is not a loss, it's liberation. Buddhist philosophy teaches that clinging creates suffering, and in your current cycle, you are learning to release the unnecessary weight you've been carrying for years. You're letting go of noise, not joy, illusion, not hope, burden, not responsibility. And as the old edges dissolve, clarity emerges not with fanfare but with the unmistakable feeling of coming home to yourself. When we turn our attention to matters of the heart for Sagittarius, we enter a landscape that demands honesty, courage, and above all, alignment. Whether you are happily single, cautiously dating, quietly healing, or attempting to interpret the complex hieroglyphics of modern relationships, the core message remains the same: choose alignment, not attachment. As someone who has spent a lifetime studying both astrological archetypes and human behavioral patterns, I can say with confidence that Sagittarians are not commitment phobic despite what ex-lovers or misunderstanding astrologers may insist. The truth is far less dramatic and far more nuanced. Sagittarius does not fear commitment, Sagittarius fears confinement. You fear losing your identity, shrinking your world, or dimming your fire just to keep someone else warm. This instinct is not selfishness but self-preservation, a deep spiritual understanding that relationships must expand you, not limit you. In the coming weeks, every Sagittarius will feel a shift in how they relate to love. If you are in a relationship, expect conversations that go beyond surface-level pleasantries. These won't be confrontations, but clarifications, genuine dialogues that heal rather than harm, the kind of truth-telling that allows intimacy to breathe. If you are single, resist the urge to sprint toward the next spark. Sagittarius blooms only when authentic, never when rushed. Ironically, the moment you stop scanning every room for your next cosmic meet-cute is precisely when someone of substance may appear. And for those healing old wounds, this period marks the release of a story that was never meant to be the final chapter of your romantic life. The past begins to loosen its grip, not because you're forcing it to, but because your spirit has outgrown what once held you. Here is your humorous truth for the day: a Sagittarius who has healed is 10 times harder to fool and 10 times more irresistible. There ought to be a warning label. Truly. Your radiance becomes unmistakable when you return to love not from longing, but from wholeness. The same theme of renewal extends into your family and community life. Sagittarius often holds the role of peacemaker, mediator, or the wise wanderer who somehow ends up being the unofficial therapist at family gatherings. People turn to you for insight, even when you didn't exactly volunteer for the position. But recently, your emotional bandwidth has been stretched thin, and your inner reserves have been running low. Now, however, the dynamic shifts. I see reconnect ions unfolding in gentle and meaningful ways: celebrations, home improvements, heartfelt conversations, and even the mending of tensions that have lingered in the background for far too long. There is a growing sense of belonging settling into your bones, a reminder that home is not just a place but an energetic grounding that allows you to exhale. What's remarkable is that you are becoming a stabilizing force not by controlling or fixing others, but simply by embodying your own transformation. The work you have been doing internally, releasing, recalibrating, choosing truth over illusion, is beginning to ripple outward, inspiring your loved ones to shift in their own ways. You are not leading by instruction but by example. Finally, this chapter invites you to examine how you give and receive. Sagittarians love helping others. You are the encourager, the motivator, the philosopher with a metaphor for every occasion. But receiving help? That's where things get complicated. Sagittarius often feels guilty accepting support, as if doing so betrays your self-reliant nature. Yet life is gently teaching you that generosity is not meant to flow in only one direction. It is a cycle. And when you allow yourself to be supported, when you welcome mentorship, accept assistance, and trust the reciprocity of healthy relationships, you create space for abundance to multiply. You do not lose independence by receiving help, you gain strength. You do not weaken your fire, you fuel it. This season reminds you that love, family, and community thrive not on grand gestures or heroic self-sacrifice but on balance, presence, and the willingness to let yourself be human in the company of others. When we look at health and the body for Sagittarius right now, it becomes clear that your system has been doing far more behind the scenes than you've consciously realized. If you felt tired, foggy, unfocused, or unusually emotional, there is nothing wrong with you, at least nothing that requires panic googling at 3 in the morning. What you're experiencing is the natural fatigue that comes with transformation. The body responds to internal change just as strongly as it responds to physical exertion, and your mind has been processing more than your calendar could ever reveal. Even on days when you swear you did nothing, your emotional metabolism has been running a marathon. This is why your energy has felt uneven, as if your spirit is hitting the gas while your body is tapping the brakes. To realign, you don't need a drastic regimen or a 12-step wellness overhaul. What you need is circulation. Move your body in ways that feel good rather than performative. Take breaks without drowning in guilt. Breathe with intention, even if it's only for 60 seconds at a time. Reduce the mental clutter that accumulates like cosmic dust. And eat foods that nourish rather than simply numb. Sagittarius thrives when movement is part of the daily rhythm, not as punishment or discipline, but as a reminder that energy must flow to stay alive. For Sagittarians in school or deep in any learning journey, this period brings a renewed sharpness of mind. Your curiosity awakens like a long-lost friend knocking on the door, and the mental fog that slowed you recently begins to dissolve. Now, before you celebrate too quickly, let's acknowledge the truth. Procrastination is still very capable of showing up uninvited, like that overly friendly neighbor who insists on small talk even when you clearly have somewhere to be. But the difference now is that discipline no longer feels like a fight. When purpose realigns, resistance loses its strength. You don't need to force yourself through textbooks or lectures. You simply need to remember why you started. Sagittarius learns best when knowledge feels meaningful, when it connects to a wider world, when it stirs your natural hunger for expansion. And that hunger is returning. In terms of compatibility and social resonance, today's energies highlight a unique harmony with Virgo, Taurus, and Libra. Virgo brings a calm steadiness into your orbit, offering structure without suffocation and grounding without judgment. Taurus steps in with stability and shared growth, creating an environment where cooperation feels effortless rather than restrictive. And Libra brings a beautiful sense of balance and reflection, helping you see yourself with clarity while offering the kind of social ease that turns even ordinary conversations into something warmer and more meaningful. These connections are not accidental, they are the natural result of your own shifting energy. Of course, no Sagittarius reading would be complete without acknowledging the humor embedded in your nature. If life hands you lemons, you are likely to take them, craft an entire philosophical theory about citrus and destiny, book a spontaneous trip to somewhere sunny, and turn it all into a travel vlog titled something like Finding Myself Through Fruit. When you say you need space, you don't mean a quick breather in another room, you mean the Milky Way, or at least a 48-hour silence retreat somewhere near the ocean. And if someone wants the truth, raw and unfiltered, they should absolutely ask you. If they prefer gentle lies, they should ask literally anyone else. But beneath the humor lies something deeper. The path ahead of you is clearing. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you are finally aligning with the direction that has been calling to you for months. You are not lost, you are simply in transition. Your next chapter is already forming its shape, and soon you will step into it with a level of clarity and strength that only comes from doing the inner work. The universe is not withholding blessings from you, it is timing them, aligning them, ensuring that when they arrive, you are ready to receive them without fear, without chaos, without the need to outrun your own doubts. From my years of studying astrology, human behavior, and the subtle ways people evolve, I can promise you this: a Sagittarius who chooses peace over chaos becomes unstoppable. You are becoming that version of yourself now. Take your time. Trust your timing. Walk your path with grace, even when you're unsure where it leads. And above all, remember that your fire is not fading, it is refining, becoming more intentional, more focused, more powerful. So as we close today's reading, allow yourself to enjoy life with the fullness and freedom that comes so naturally to your sign. Sagittarians are at their best when they live wholeheartedly, when they laugh loudly, when they seek meaning not out of desperation but out of joy. Let this be your season of ease, clarity, and renewed passion. If you found wisdom, comfort, or even a moment of amusement in today's message, I invite you to like this video, share it with your fellow truth seekers, and subscribe to my channel, Zodiac Talks Tarot. Your support helps this community grow, and I would be honored to continue guiding you through the cosmic journey ahead.